Okay, so let's now look at this new passage, which is your test for literature, passage 7. The Impressionist painters expressly disavowed any interest in philosophy, yet their new approach to art had far reaching philosophical implications. For their view of matter that the Impressionists assumed differed profoundly from the view that had previously prevailed among artists. This view helped to unify their artistic works and created a new style. So basically, what do we understand? That these Impressionist painters, they came up with a new style of their own, which was not initially followed by other artists, which is why a new artistic style got created, and these people were not interested in philosophy, right? The ancient Greeks had conceived of the world in concrete terms. That means they thought of the world in concrete terms only, even endowing abstract qualities with bodies. Okay, so they just placed abstract qualities also within the bodies. They did not look at abstract qualities as abstract at all. This Greek view of matter persisted so far as painting was concerned into the 19th century. That means all the paintings that the Greeks drew consisted of the same ideology. The Impressionists, on the other hand, viewed light, not matter, as the ultimate visual reality. That means the Impressionists considered light to be the key component and not the matter. That means they did not care about the body which was holding this object, but light which was bouncing off those bodies. The philosopher Taine expressed the Impressionist view of things when he said the chief person in the picture is the light in which everything is there. What does that mean? This means that the first subject that we are considering in a picture is nothing but the light itself. In Impressionist painting, solid bodies become mere reflectors of light, and distinctions between one object and the other becomes of arbitrary conventions. But by all things, by light, all things were welded together. What does that mean? The whole canvas, the whole painting, if you consider a room for that matter, or if you consider that 4 or 5 people were standing in front of a light, we can see from behind that all those 4 or 5 people are together seen as one group of big people, or one big group of people instead of separate entities, right? The same way the Impressionist paintings also combined, they conjoined, they cajoled all the, matter or bodies together, because light was reflecting uniformly onto all of them. The treatment of both color and outline was transformed as well. Color, formerly considered a property inherent in any object, was now seen to be merely the result of vibrations of light on the object's colorless surface. So initially, we thought that every object has a certain color. But now what happened with this Impressionist view coming in, we started believing that all objects are colorless, and that when light is shining onto them, they bring out some color because of the vibrations of the light. An outline whose function has formerly been to indicate the limits of objects now mark instead merely the boundaries between units of patterns, which often merged into one another. So initially, we know that an outline was supposed to be discriminating between one object to the other by providing certain boundaries. But now, because we are only looking at the perspective of light, yes, what happens? These boundaries become units of patterns. Okay, a pattern which is merged into one big unit. Okay, so there's no distinction between smaller units anymore, is what's being mentioned there. The Impressionist world was composed not of separate objects, but of many surfaces on which light struck and was reflected with varying intensity to the eye through the atmosphere, which modified it. So basically, our eyes are modifying the light which is coming through the atmosphere, and that is why we are able to see different things differently. It was this process that produced a mosaic of colors that formed an Impressionist canvas. What's a mosaic? A mosaic usually becomes how do you say, an amalgamation of 4 to 5 different pieces. So maybe you have seen glass arts in movies which were like this. Okay, each of this is a small piece. Yes, this is white in color, blue in color, green in color, yellow in color, red in color. So all these small pieces together, they form the mosaic. Okay, now light becomes the sole subject of the picture, right? More clear. The interest of the object upon which it plays is secondary. Painting thus conceived becomes a purely optic art. So basically, light is the most important thing. What it falls on becomes secondary to us. From this profoundly revolutionary form of art, then all ideas, religious, moral, psychological, were excluded, and so were all emotions except certain aesthetic ones. So basically, this kind of art, took out all the other ideas of religion, morality, psychological ideas, and all of that, and they kept only few aesthetic emotions. The people, places, and things depicted in Impressionist picture do not tell a story or convey any special meaning. They are instead merely parts of a pattern which are wielded together from nature and captured on canvas by the artist. So basically, they're just talking about a story of how light is bouncing off on the different articles, but they're not talking about those articles in themselves. Okay. So what do I understand from the first question? The author of the passage is primarily concerned with what? Okay. So I can see the explaining how the Impressionists were influenced by scientific studies of light and color. Well, not really, but instead, I think we can see right from the first paragraph, okay, that have told me about how there were philosophical implications, though they were not interested in philosophy, and that continues throughout. That we are looking at certain religious, moral, and psychological implications even till the very end. So I think the answer should be B, which is discussing the philosophical implications of Impressionist style of painting. Okay, all right.